What's up everyone, this is Champion 2D Rob, back again with another video, and I thought I would do something a little bit different with this video. I wanted to do a nostalgic video. I wanted to take a look back at a game that meant a lot to me when I was growing up. I know some of you that have been following me for a long time might know some of this information, but for those that don't, I will just give you a very brief summary of my early gaming history. And that was basically I was very late to gaming. I really didn't even touch a console until I was around 9 years of age. Prior to that, it was mostly sort of the LCD sort of games that I would play on and off, but I wasn't really into gaming until as I was just sort of leaving my preteen years and entering my teenage years. So, as some of you will also know, the beat 'em up genre was basically the genre that sort of got me into gaming, really. And my first beat 'em up that I ever played was the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles arcade game, which I believe I played back in '89. No, I didn't actually play in it. No, I did play in '89. Yes, I did. I discovered it in '89, and that, of course, led on to me playing the Simpsons arcade game, and then it sort of took on a snowball effect, and I just sort of became really addicted to these beat 'em up games in the arcade. At that point, I still wasn't playing any at home. Back then, I think around it was in 1990, I believe, I got my first console, which was the NES. And I didn't really play any beat 'em ups on it, to be honest. I didn't really have that many games for the NES, and even the games that my friends had at the time, none of them were beat 'em ups. But so anyway, like I was saying, my first beat 'em up was Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. So that's Hero because that's what it was here in the UK. But the game that I want to talk about today is another beat 'em up that really meant a lot to me. And some of you have heard me bring this game up before, and I brought it up very briefly here and then. But the reason why I want to talk about it now is just I was just sort of thinking about the game and how it sort of cemented my love of beat 'em ups. It's not my favorite beat 'em up. There were games that I played after the fact that I sort of began to like a little bit more, but this was the one that I played a lot around the age of 10, 11 years of age. I was very fortunate growing up in London. There was a lot of arcades around me, so I was able to play this game on a fairly regular basis. And the game I want to talk about is Spider-Man the video game. Now, this was a game that was actually developed by Sega, and it was developed for their System 32 board. And yeah, I remember I discovering it in the arcades way back when. And growing up before then, I was very big into superheroes. I'm still into superheroes. Like, I absolutely adore superheroes. And Spider-Man was has remained one of my all-time favorite superheroes. As a toddler, growing up, I always had some form of superhero figures. That's really what I was about. I loved figures, toys. That's really what I really enjoyed as a preteen. So when I saw this arcade game, I was automatically drawn to it. And you don't just play as Spider-Man. You have actually a choice of 4 characters. You've got Spider-Man, you've got the Black Cat, you've got Hawkeye, and you have the Submariner. Some of you who are not into your comics, might know the Submariner now, as he actually made his live-action debut in the recent Black Panther Wakanda Forever film. He finally made his live-action debut. So that's where he comes from. Black Cat is a known associate of Spider-Man, a character very well known in the Spider-Man comics. And Hawkeye, of course, well-known Avenger. He's been in the live-action film for a while now, so a lot of you know who Hawkeye is. So this was a game that had 4-player co-op. Of course, you would choose which character you could. Unlike other arcade cabs, where each controller on the arcade machine was assigned to a specific character. In this case, each person was able to pick their own character as long as they didn't pick the same character. And one of the things that drew me to the arcade machine, besides the superhero characters themselves, was the colors, the vivid, just the color palette. It was just very bright and colorful, and it just really just appealed to me. It looked a lot like a comic book, a lot of the stuff that I was reading at the time, and it just captured the feel of the comics really well. Looking back, I did think it was a bit of an odd assortment of characters that you got to choose from. I mean, Black Cat I understood, but I did always think that Hawkeye and Submariner, especially Submariner, was a bit of an odd inclusion into this particular group. But, it was still great in any case. And, and what I loved about this arcade machine, this arcade game specifically, is I think it had about 16 levels. And what was so cool about it is that while it was primarily a side-scrolling beat-em-up, every so often it would become an action platformer, almost Strider-like in its gameplay, and it just sort of broke up the beat 'em up sections, and it was really cool because I remember playing it for the first time and I was just so caught out by it because when it becomes a action platformer, the camera zooms out and the characters become really small, and then it sort of just becomes this action platformer. And I remember it just caught me completely by surprise. And the first time it actually happens when you're fighting Venom. Venom becomes like really big, and then the camera zooms out, and you sort of have to scale up a building, and then you sort of have to beat him. But it's really cool. It's really cool. And I played this game a lot as a kid, and it was just something that I played not only by myself, but also with friends. I don't believe I ever got to complete it. I don't think I ever did. I got very far in it, but I was never able to complete it. Like most arcade games, it was a very hard game. But it just brought me so much joy back then. And for me, it was just such a good time, in an era where, as much as we want to reminisce about the good times of the 90s and stuff, like everyone, you have your issues and whatnot. And for me, the arcade was a good place, a comfortable place, a place of just, where you could just forget your troubles and just immerse yourself in some gaming. And that was one of the games that just really hooked me right away. And it just meant so much to me. And while you can emulate it, you can emulate the game. Unfortunately, it's one of those games that is a little bit funny to emulate. I'm a bit behind on emulation now, so it's probably a lot better. But I did briefly have it on emulation, and then when I tried to get it again, the game wasn't running very well. It was running very slow. Apparently, it's quite common with System 32 games. For whatever reason, they're just a little bit temperamental to emulate. But it was just such a great game, and I really hope that it gets some sort of revisit. I know that obviously being a licensed game, it's not like Sega can just re-release it. But it was just such a great game by Sega that unfortunately was never ported anywhere. It would have been great to have seen a home port. Chances are it probably would have been a 32X port or a Saturn port, which unfortunately it didn't make either. But it was just one of those games that really defined my childhood in that sort of early 1991 to sort of 92, 93 era. Before I started playing other beat 'em ups that eventually sort of took over. Games like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and Aliens vs Predator for me were like just two massive games for me. But this one will always sort of hold a special place in my heart into why I love gaming so much and why I love the genre of beat 'em up so much. So that's basically it, guys. I just wanted to sort of talk about it very briefly. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Did you guys play this game growing up? Have you guys played this game on emulation? Let me know. What were your favourite beat 'em ups growing up as a kid? What were the games that made you feel, that brought you a lot of joy back in those sort of early days? And if you're a little bit younger, what were the games that brought you joy in the years that you were growing up? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, thanks for letting me ramble on here, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.